Hello there and welcome back to yet another review. Today we're going to be having a look at another one from the Shaw Brothers box set, and that is 5 Shaolin Masters. Made in 1974, directed by Chang Cheh, with choreography from Liu Xiaolong and Liu Xiaoweng. Real ensemble cast in this movie, a real sort of who's who of sort of Shaw Brothers veterans and Shaw Brothers actors. Look no further than you've got people like Ti Lung, Alexander Fu Sheng, you've got David Sheng, Chen Quan-tai, Lung Ka-yan, Fong Hak-on. You've got a real big cast in this movie. Loads of people that went on to be obviously more successful in their own right. I say made in 1974. You get the old kung fu trait of Shaolin and the people up against the Manchus, but with Chang Cheh at the helm and with great cast, you're always going to be in good hands. That's the great thing about this movie. Though probably not one of his more sophisticated efforts. There are classic Shaw Brothers movies. This it's not really necessarily a classic Chang Cheh movie. It's still a great film, a great kung fu movie in its own right, just for, like I say, alone the cast and the people you get in this movie. But it's just maybe lacking some sophistication that you get in sort of his other works. Plot is very simple, and the Shaolin Masters in question spend a bulk of the movie running away or training, but with, like I say, a great cast here, the film is still worth checking out, and with some great weapon sequences as well to boot. So we learn that the Shaolin Temple was burnt down, and we learn that there were 5 masters who escaped, and that really is the bulk of the film. The Shaolin Temple gets burnt down, 5 masters escaped, 5 Shaolin Masters, title of the film, premise of the film. There you go. The evil guy is trying to find these people that escaped. One of the villains doing some awesome moves. I think his name's Bao Yulong, doing some awesome moves with a blade attached to a rope at the end of the move at the start of the movie. So they escape and suspect there must have been a spy, and they're played by Wang Lun Wei, sometimes known as Johnny Wang, who's been in so many. He's been in quite a few actually of the movies I've reviewed, kung fu movies I've reviewed, but he's here as well. All of our leads, especially Fu Sheng and David Sheng, have some great charisma here. Fu Sheng and David Sheng, like I mentioned, being classic Shaw Brothers veterans in many ways. Fu Sheng went in later. His last starring role was in 8 Diagram Pole Fighter with Gordon Liu. Fu Sheng, of course, being the naive troublemaker of the group who doesn't take everything all that seriously, such in the way with like a lot of his characters. He was never sort of Fu Sheng was never sort of dead straight. He always had that cheeky look about him. He always had that he had a great smile. We had that charisma going on for him. So all decide to go their separate ways, even when the movie is about, even when the film gets to about the 11-12 minute in mark and the credits are still coming up on the screen. So I thought that was quite, going to get credits all the way through this movie. So the Manchus ambush Ti Lung at the tea house on the main road, as they have all split up at this point, so they can find their comrades and fellow rebels who are in hiding, which they use a variety of symbols and stones, and most notably, like in this movie, it's a hand signal so they can sort of find other rebels who are sort of, they're sort of people who are on their side. So it enables them to sort of identify one another. So they ambush people Ti Lung was going to rendezvous with, again with some awesome weapons move with the blade with the flying dart, lots of spins and great fun stuff. Ti Lung gets injured and realises his skills aren't good enough, and that is like the first half of the movie plays, them all realising basically they're no match for the people that are after them. This is what these masters all come to sort of realise, is they're no good for these people that sort of catching up with them. Their skills are far, far from being competent enough to do the job with the villains that they're up against. We catch up with Kuan-chun, who is with other rebels and wants to take on the enemy whilst they have the opportunity. Very headstrong. Of course, they get their asses kicked, and one of his comrades who didn't want to go anyway gets killed in the process by Fong Hak-on. They lose 5 brothers but kill 10 of theirs. So it, like when he says to everyone else, well, you can't be reckless, it was your idea. You were the one that said let's go. One of your comrades didn't want to go. He ends up getting killed, and then he's like, no, we can't be reckless. Like suddenly it's only dawned on him, okay, maybe we might want to take a step back and think things through. Kuan-chun, his character, 1 minute he wants to go in, once he realises he can't, he's like, no, hang on, wait a minute, like I said, we can't be reckless here. So, say it was your idea. Worth noting as well, Gordon Liu turns up in this movie in one of his very early roles, a very brief role. It's literally blink and you miss it, and you miss Gordon Liu altogether. One of the masters, Lun Kao Fan's character, against, and he's Look How Young, sorry, it's sort of worth mentioning the fight here takes place down an alleyway, and it's very reminiscent of the end fight in Martial Club, which, again, that end fight in that movie, very synonymous with being set in that alleyway, very close quarters, not a lot of room to move, and it's very... This film almost predicts that, this movie, when you see Gordon Liu. He gets killed after like a minute of screen time. Like I say, it's very early on in his sort of Shaw Brothers career. He wasn't sort of the star yet that he sort of had then he got the breakout role with 36 Chambers. He was very much just he was there, he was hovering around, but as I say, here he's literally there and then he's gone. None of their comrades believe in their skills. Fu Sheng is trying the symbol everywhere and ends up showing his skills in public, and the traitor Wang Wei finds him and he sits down with him. Fu Sheng still thinking he is a good guy and wants to know the symbols and gestures. Just when you think Fu Sheng is going to tell him, though, because Fu Sheng is the one, he's probably the one who's going to give his identity away accidentally. He's probably the one who's going to... Fu Sheng's blown his cover, he doesn't. But just when you think, okay, because he's not... Wang Wei is that he is the traitor, and he's just trying to find out what the symbols are, the gestures, so they can communicate with other rebels, so they can sort of do it as well to find the other rebels and the people who are against the Manchus and things like that. But just when you think Fu Sheng is going to do it and give it away, he's smart and realise that he is the one, like Wang Wei is the one who sold them out. And the fight breaks out and Fu Sheng gets captured. We then catch up with David Chang, who is meeting with Chief Gao at the mountain camp and wants David to bring him the magistrate's head, as he had hired many fighters to capture Shaolin disciples, thinking he is the traitor. Chang agrees to do so and says next time don't judge visitors so hastily. In other words, don't, I'll do this, but don't judge, I've just come in seeking help, you're judging me. So he basically puts him in his place, so to speak, which works out as he hears about Fu Sheng being held at the magistrate's house. Funny how these things work out sometimes in these kung fu movies. I mean, he had no idea that's where Fu Sheng was being held. He's met this guy, says, I want the magistrate's head on a plate. David Chang's gone to check it out, and that's just so happens where Fu Sheng is. Watch out for Lu Ka Wang, who also makes an appearance here. So Wang Wei wants to know the gestures, like I mentioned, they are using, and Fu Sheng just humours him, sort of starts making them up, sort of ridiculing the guy, like sort of, you're not going to get it out of me no matter how hard you try. Chang and some allies turn up to save him just as he's about to be tortured with some sort of finger crushers. Gao from the mountain camp turns up. Obviously David Chang's guilt trip works on him, that obviously had some effect because he comes along to help. Obviously worked. Him and Fu Sheng escape, and Chief Gao, which is told in flashback in black and white, even though it only happened 5 minutes ago. So we see the flashback of them sort of getting out, but it's sort of told in flashback for some reason. We see it in a flashback scene. No one seemed to stick around to help. Chief Gao would say... This doesn't make a lot of sense. No one seemed to stick around to help him for some reason, because I think Chief Gao, if I recall, he dies. But everybody seemed to get out, but nobody actually helped him. I'm not sure why that was, but maybe I'm missing something there. I'm not too sure. So after this, they all decide to go back to the temples. No one will look after them. They need to train, because like I mentioned, none of them are good enough. Their skills are not up to par yet. They're not quite... as good as they should be. They're not quite ready because they're basically getting their asses handed to them. They need to train, because they're losing rebels, they're losing fighters, they're losing believers in their cause. So they've got to, they go away to train to sort of hone their skills, to get better, so they can sort of support and offer a bit more of a backbone to what they're believing in and their cause and, what they hope to achieve. They each pick a weapon, basically, or style to master and train in, for example, like staff, 10-fist technique, chain whip. Fu Sheng character practices tiger and crane style. Manchus have no idea where they are. And then cue a montage, the classic montage of them all sort of training, gradually getting better and things like that. So it's generic, sort of, like I say, kung fu stuff. There's nothing, in a way... if you look at my previous review for Boxer from Shantung, which was made in like 1972, which in many ways was quite groundbreaking. This film, in many ways, is very simple. It doesn't break new ground. It's very sort of, like I say, just rebels against the Manchus. They've got to train harder to beat them so they can sort of lead their fellow followers. And there's not really much more to the plot than that. But this film is worth watching because you got Lun Kao Yan here, Fong Hak Hon. You've got great cast in T Lung. You've got David Chang, as I keep mentioning. But there's a real great cast of the film. You've got great performances always from Fu Sheng. And that's why this film is good, because they're all together. You know, they're all a team here. It's not just like there's one main lead and that is it. It does say in that regards as like an ensemble piece. It does work. David Chang doing some awesome moves here and spins with the chained whip, and he wasn't really sort of a kung fu-ish guy. I don't think he was very much sort of a martial artist kung fu guy in the sense, but he does some great stuff here with the chain whip. When this finished, we were led to believe they've been training a year, so they've gone to train in hiding, and they're just sort of training, gradually getting better. During this time, one of their counsellors wants to meet at the Red Flower Pavilion, and the Manchus have learned the signals and signs by torturing one of the rebels, and most likely will ambush them there. Real amazing landscapes as well. This is another thing that Chang Cheh was sometimes very good of. If you look at when on location, it really does show off the scenery in numerous shots, no more so than when we see the five masters running along next to a river. And with the score in this movie, which is quite good as well, I might add, it really does work with the movie. When you see the five Shaolin masters running along sort of this riverbank and the way it's shot, it really does work. It really does work well. As I say, it looks fantastic. Their idea, basically, after all their training, is to lure the Manchus fighters out. The finale is a combination of hand-to-hand combat and weapons-based combat with all the fighters. They split the enemy up. We get Fong Hak Hon doing like praying mantis style, something that sort of even, like I say, foreshadowed what he would be doing in Warriors 2 in 1978, directed by Sammo Hung. So it's not funny how he's doing praying mantis here as well. Worth watching just for T Lung up against the blade dart, dueling with the bow staff in the river. Two of the masters die. I won't say who. I will try not, because I was thinking that I always do give away basically the whole plot of the film. I will try and cut down on that, because I know if you haven't seen this film, you might want to enjoy it for yourself. But two of them die. I won't say who, just not to reveal the whole plot. And it ends with them meeting the rebels at the pavilion, carrying their fallen comrades. And that is basically the end of the film. There's, like I said, it's not a classic in many ways. It's still a great, enjoyable movie. It's great. I'll say it looks great, great performances, great stars in this movie. But it just doesn't offer anything new to what was already sort of happening. If you get my drift, it was like I say, I know I said it before, but if you look at my previous review of Boxer from Shantung, which in many ways broke so much more ground, that try something different, that was over 2 hours in length, it was almost like an epic, Boxer from Shantung. This film is very much sort of simple. Shaolin masters come out, Manchus got to get better. And things like that. But well, I say worth watching. If you got T Lung, David Chang, and Fu Sheng in a movie, like I said, and all this, don't forget as well, very brief cameo from Gordon Liu. You know you're in good hands. But like I mentioned at the start, maybe not one of Chang Cheh's more sophisticated efforts, but a great kung fu movie nonetheless. So if you've seen Five Shaolin Masters, let me know what your thoughts on the movie, if you enjoyed it, what do you think about it. If you haven't seen it, I'd say it's worth checking out. Definitely worth checking out, but just don't expect anything groundbreaking in terms of just like sort of a kung fu movie, as I say, because it does follow a lot of stereotypical traits that many did. But I will try and get through, I know I say a lot, but I will try and get through every film in this box set, because there's quite a lot to get through, and I've also got the Shaw Brothers Volume 2 box set to get through. We'll try and get through some of the movies, but if some of these reviews seem a bit rushed, or if they seem a bit like I'm sort of just spouting information at you, or if I'm just coming at you really quick with the plot. And I even might trip over myself sometimes and get the plot confused, or things I quickly forget, or I get a character's name wrong here and there. It's only because, like I've mentioned, I don't want to waste your time, because I know some people give reviews and they're like an hour long. Some people give reviews and they're like 3 minutes long, which to me is nowhere near enough. I don't think you can do a review of a movie in like 2 or 3 minutes. But at the same time, I don't want to keep you sitting here for like an hour long when you just want to know if the film's any good. But yeah, check out 5 Shaolin Masters. If you've seen it already, as I say, let me know what you think. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.